How does that look? If it falls over again, who cares? It's the second movie, doesn't matter.
He was once the world's most famous male model. Even his looks were household names. Le Tigre, Magnum, and of course, Blue Steel. But that was a long, long, long time ago.
Old LeMay? We were a joke out there. Are you sure Zoolander is the right man to help us? Hey, handsome!
Ah! What the hell is your problem?
God help us all. You were amazing.
I'm sorry, I can't understand a word that you're saying.
He stopped a Chinese throwing star with a look. Flash me that beautiful Magnum.
Wait, Magnum, now! Oh! You have this! Oh! Yeah! Tequila! Oh!
Maybe we could try a washcloth.
We're back at it again talking about comedy movies here on the Blockbusters show, and today we're going to be looking at the sequel to Zoolander, Zoolander 2, also known as Two-Lander. It's not even a bad pun. The movie was marketed with that title, and they even joke about it in the movie.
As a hermit crab, I will now be anonymous and known only as Eric Two-Lander.
While I would say that that's kind of clever, the movie itself, long time no Z. Well, that's a terrible pun to start out the description on the back of the box, but okay. When a mystery assassin starts killing the world's most beautiful people, including Justin Bieber, because, you know, making a joke about Justin Bieber in 2016 was very timely. I mean, that's what's next. Jokes about Shia LaBeouf and furries and the Insane Clown Posse, you know, oh, fucking magnets, how do they work? Let's just go with every single joke that was funny in 2010 and only funny in 2010. Hotshot Interpol agent, played by Penelope Cruz, learns the key to a deadly plot that ties with former models Derek Zoolander, Ben Stiller, and Hansel, Owen Wilson. Recruited for a top-secret mission, they must return to the world of high fashion, reclaim their fame, and save the day. The only thing standing in their way is the criminal mastermind Mugatu, played by Will Ferrell, and his evil fashion protege, played by Kristen Wiig. Prepare for a dangerously sexy adventure in the hilarious comedy that critics are calling every hit as good as the original classic. Well, I don't know about that one, Chief. You guys remember the first Zoolander movie from like 2001? Remember that? You guys remember Merman? Merman! You guys remember what is this? A center for ants? You guys remember you can read minds? That goes without saying, the first Zoolander movie is immensely quotable, and while I think that it's definitely one of the funniest movies from around that time, the second one, it just kind of falls into that category of, well, they waited way too long to make this one. It doesn't really fall into the same category as some of the other bad sequels we've reviewed here on Blockbusters show. It's not on par with something like, George of the Jungle 2, or all the terrible straight-to-video movies with Larry the Cable Guy, or, Cop and a Half 2, Bigger, Fatter, Liar. It doesn't really fall into that category because unlike those movies, this was actually made by the same people. Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson show up again as their characters from the first movie. Will Ferrell's in it. And Ben Stiller even wrote and directed this one. When I saw the trailers for this thing, I was like, wait, really? They're doing a second Zoolander? Really? Like, it was 2016 at the time. Like, they're really gonna do another Zoolander? I should have seen the warning signs, because this movie was released in February of 2016. So, yeah, if you're an avid cinephile, you know that January, February, and sometimes August is usually like the dumping ground for really mediocre to crap movies. And while I wouldn't really say that this is a terrible movie or anything, it's nowhere near as funny as the first one. But right off the bat, this is one of those sequels where it just kind of shits on the end of the first movie. It's like, hey, remember how Derek Zoolander and Matilda got together and they had a kid, and, you know, at the end of the first movie, they finally did that, you know, that center for kids who want to learn how to read good and want to learn to do other stuff good too. You remember that? Well, in the beginning of this movie, they established that because of faulty construction, the building collapsed and
Students and teachers were evacuated, and while Zoolander and his son, Derek Jr., were unharmed, sadly, his wife, Matilda Jeffrey Zoolander, has reportedly died.
So yeah, that's why she's not in this movie. Time goes on, life just eventually falls apart for these people. I mean, Derek Zoolander eventually gets his kid taken away because he's not fit to be a father. Hansel just kind of disappears off the grid. And Jerry Stiller, remember how Jerry Stiller, God bless the man's soul, you know, he was in the first movie? Well, guess what? He is in a couple seconds in the opening, and he is just never seen ever again.
I'll give you anything you want in that fakakta thing.
Already, you're taking away one of the funniest characters from the first movie, and he is just like nowhere to be seen all throughout the course of this thing. As for what's happened to our two main characters, Hansel is now living in a desert with his orgy. Because you remember how in the first movie they said he had crazy orgies and they had like that funny orgy sequence? Yeah, well, they decided to turn that into his entire character trait now, and he basically just like lives this, you know, completely platonic life with his orgy. Like they're just one big happy family, and it basically becomes this subplot where they're parodying like, you know, commitment issues and stuff like that, except the joke is that he has commitment issues to multiple people in a big group. And weirdly enough, Kiefer Sutherland plays himself in the orgy.
Every relationship has to evolve. And somehow you've managed to stay the same.
As for Derek Zoolander, he's living in a snowy mountaintop shotgun shack in the middle of nowhere, and Billy Zane, showing up from the first one again, shows up and gives him this invitation to come to some kind of big fashion award show that just really wants him to be there in Italy. So he's reluctant at first, and eventually he caves and decides, yes, he will go. And from there, he also decides that he'll go because he wants to try and find his son and, you know, be the father that he wasn't before. Of course, Hansel gets the invitation as well, so now they're both off to Italy. They both come across each other, and they're reunited once again. Well, here's where the movie kind of starts to take a little bit of a different feel. While there was a lot of really weird stuff in the first movie, this movie feels like it's going more for this, like, weird Adult Swim, like, anti-humor kind of shtick. There's tons of jokes where they just say something, and they just keep saying it over and over and over again for as long as possible until eventually somebody laughs. And if it isn't that, they just throw in weird visuals for the sake of weird visuals. Like, Fred Armistead's head superimposed onto a little person's body. That was just odd.
Vit? Yeah. I'm in charge of social media for Donatari. I've been working for him since I was 10.
How old are you now?
11. Should we go to the hotel?
Speaking of embarrassing cameos, there's this part where they're at the big fashion festival, and one of the biggest acts there is All, played by Benedict Cumberbatch.
This is all.
All what?
We are all.
So, are you like a male model or a female model?
All is not defined by binary constructs.
Was this supposed to be a statement on something? Was this supposed to be a joke? People can say what they want about the celebrity cameos in the first Zoolander, but like, you know, and while some of them are very dated, it's still more timely than anything in this movie. The other thing with these celebrity cameos that are in this movie, whenever they have these people show up, it feels like it's written like SNL or Simpsons or Family Guy or South Park. It's like watching one of those bad Seltzerberg movies where they'll go, oh, hey, look over there. It's that celebrity. It's that character from that movie or that show that everyone's watching. I'm not kidding. It's like just a step away from going, Katy Perry, what are you doing here?
Hey, Katie.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, what are you doing here?
Who am I?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, and speaking of things they bring back from the first movie, remember the joke about Sting in the first movie? Well, guess what? Sting shows up this time.
I am your father. Holy shit. Sting?
From there, Derek and Hansel end up getting inducted into this, like, fashion Interpol, basically. It's this big, like, underground spy organization type thing. and of course they're involved with the fashion industry, and they're going to try and help Derek find his son. And they do that joke where they go to the orphanage, and you see this, like, you know, this kid that looks just like him, and then it turns out that it's actually not that kid, and it's actually a kid who's fat. And Derek can't handle the fact that he has a kid who's not in peak physical condition like him.
He used to be called Derek Jr.
Really? That's strange, that's my name. Ehi, Fatlander! Smetti di parlare con quel gay, dacci la palla! Bye, mister.
I don't know what it is about the kid playing his son, but for some reason that kid kept reminding me of Spencer Breslin, the kid from like Cat in the Hat and the Santa Claus movies. That's what that kid kept reminding me of, the way he says lines.
I just talked to your dad, and we've got to get you out of here pronto.
I never want to see him again.
What are you talking about? Your dad's a great guy. He loves you like you're his own.
I am his own. He's literally the worst father ever.
It's just because I reviewed Cat in the Hat not too long ago, but I seriously wanted that kid at one point to say in this movie, "You're not going to take me to Colonel Von Crunk School for Wayward Boys, Larry." Slowly but surely, they start revealing that, of course, all of this was a plan set up by Mugatu, Will Ferrell's character, to try and, you know, ruin Derek Zoolander's life, and he's got something big planned. At first, everybody thinks that this was all an evil plot set up by, I don't even remember her name, but she's played by Kristen Wiig, doing like that fake European accent that iDubbbz used to do for videos.
I want to invite you to be my guests at the most elite fishing event in history, The Incredible.
I say, this is one of the few movies that keeps reminding me of why I'm not that big a fan of Kristen Wiig. I mean, like, yes, she was good in Bridesmaids, and she can be a funny writer at times, but whenever she does stuff like this, it is annoying to me. Look, I gotta say this. The first 2/3 of this movie, I don't think are that funny. But every so often, there were a few times when they actually had stuff that did catch me off guard. Like, every so often, they'd have characters say something that's like, all right, yeah, that was kind of funny. One of the few things that I thought actually kind of worked about this movie and giving the first one kind of an update and putting it in the more modern setting is they acknowledge that the fashion world has gone from, like, these models, like, back then, versus now where, like, fashion is now connected to, like, social media influencers and stuff. Because you have this one guy who's this, like, vapid hipster douchebag who's pretty much just, like, every single, like, young 20-something entrepreneur on social media. His name is Donatari. And I gotta say, just the way that the guy playing him, like, does his lines, it actually did make me laugh a few times when he was on screen.
I know you've been all Shawshanked out, but, like, seriously? I'm the new stupid king of fashion whatever. Donatari, baby. What?
The thing is, like, if he was the main character of his own movie, he would be really annoying. But the fact that they used him so sparingly in this one actually made him one of the funnier things in the first half of this film.
Town stout. Town fresh. I don't like you guys, sir. It's an honor to have you.
One of the other things that got me was, and it was just blatantly them repeating a joke from the first movie with the merman commercial, but this time they had it that he's doing like a skin cream commercial, and he's like half man, half cow, and there's a lady like milking him, and it's like all sensual and shit. That was actually funny. I also got to bring this up. They kill off Matilda, the love interest from the first movie. Throughout the course of this movie, they give Derek Zoolander a new love interest. In this case, it's a woman that works at this fashion Interpol place, and she's played by Penelope Cruz. And it's interesting because I've seen her in a couple of other comedies. A lot of them weren't very good. And yet, whenever she's in movies like this, Penelope Cruz is actually trying. Like, she's actually acting like she's in a real movie. So you know what? Yeah, she's a trooper for that. Also, I mean, she's Penelope Cruz. She is hot. One of the first scenes that she shows up in, she's like in this like red leather jumpsuit on a motorcycle. And that was nice.
Derek Zoolander,
Yes.
Valentina Valencia, Interpol, Global Fashion Division.
Fashion police, we're clean, lady. Go harass somebody else.
Like I said all throughout, first 2/3, occasionally funny things, mostly just kind of dry spells. The last third of this film, when Will Ferrell comes back into the picture as Mugatu, the main villain, he is the funniest thing in the whole movie. The whole scene where he's in this, like, straitjacket.
Hands. Our most overrated appendage. When not allowed the use of them, you'd be surprised how quickly feet can be trained to do the exact same thing.
He does this, like, breakout routine. That was actually funny to me.
10 years spent creating some of the most realistic and lifelike masks ever made. One for you, and one for me. You can become me. And I can become you.
When Will Ferrell was doing his shit on screen, he was actually making me laugh.
I just killed a little hipster. Yeah! Prison changed me deeply. It affected me psychologically. I'm a psycho. Jacob Moogberg died the day I put ebony and ivory on skinny satin neckwear. You listen to me, Biggie Smalls. I went to prison. You better scarf down that last bowl of whore pasta. We rollin' too.
It's D-Day, little dumpling.
As soon as he breaks out of prison, it's revealed his whole plan was that he wanted to kidnap Derek Zoolander's son, fatten him up, so that way they could sacrifice him, because they established that there was some prophecy, which eventually turns out to be bullshit, obviously, because he even says that it sounds like the stupidest thing ever.
Adam and Eve and Steve? Are you serious? You actually believe that crap?
Prophecy says when the world was created, it was Adam and Eve and Steve was the first ever male model. So, they'll sacrifice him, drink his blood, and then he'll become the next big fashion model. Of course, ultimately, it turns out this was all a ruse to try and get all these big fashion industry people in one room together. Because they even say that people in the fashion industry are just so gosh darn gullible that they would believe some stupid shit like Adam and Eve and Steve.
Why are you doing all of this then?
Because, Mark, by Mark Jacobs, I knew that there'd only be one thing that would gather the entire idiotic fashion world into one place with no exit.
Once he gets them all in a contained area together, he pulls out a bomb, he's gonna drop it on them, and he admits that the only reason he did this was because he just wanted to get back at Derek Zoolander because he hates him and ruined his life. Of course, you know that by the end of this thing, that they're gonna stop him, that Zoolander and Hansel and Penelope Cruz and the kid are going to save the day. Defeat him, Hansel makes up with his orgy, and it turns out that everyone in the orgy was pregnant, even the men. Except for Kiefer Sutherland, because he had some kind of miscarriage. I don't get why they did this subplot. This was just weird. Eric now has a better relationship with his son. He talks with Matilda, who is a ghost in this one scene, and she says it's basically okay to start going out with Penelope Cruz. Which, I mean, it's like, again, even she's like, yeah, let it go, Derek. And it's like, yeah, we all want to go out with Penelope Cruz. Who wouldn't? Get together. She goes back into fashion. Hansel and Zoolander and his son go into fashion because they established that even his son has a place in the fashion world. So, I mean, that's nice, I guess. And then, cut to credits set to a remix of that Relax, Don't Do It song featuring Nicki Minaj. Last third of the movie, I think, is the most consistently entertaining part. Up until that point, few things made me laugh. The half man, half cow commercial, that got me. Donatari was pretty good. Will Ferrell, best part of the whole movie when he shows up in the last third. And up until that point, I'll say Penelope Cruz is like the best actor. Like, again, the fact that she's actually trying to act like this is a real movie, I give her credit for that. And the thing is, like, even Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson, they're not bad in their characters. In fact, if anything, it felt like the characters were actually consistent to how they were in the first film. It's just that, like, you put them in this modern setting, it just kind of comes off like, all right. I mean, they even make a joke about how, like, out of touch and out of date and out of place they are in this modern fashion world. And it's like, that probably could have led to some really great comedy, but as it is, it's just kind of like, oh, okay then. Say what you want about the first Zoolander being dated because it's like an early 2000s movie, but even then, I would say the first Zoolander is a lot more timely compared to this one. Because those celebrity cameos, man, when they did that kind of shit, Katy Perry, what are you doing here? Neil deGrasse Tyson, what are you doing here? That kind of shit, it was just like, wow, this is even more dated than celebrity cameos from the first one. If you haven't seen it and you're curious, catch it on TV if they have it, or if it's on streaming, sure, check it out then. And if it doesn't make you laugh after a certain point, then yeah, go ahead and turn it off. It's certainly better than some of the other bad sequels. I mean, just based on the fact that Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson come back, and the fact that Ben Stiller wrote and directed it again, that already makes it a notch above crap like, Bigger, Fatter, Liar, or Cop and a Half 2, or all those crappy Larry the Cable Guy sequels, or George of the Jungle 2, and Daddy Day Camp. It makes it better than that, like on a technical aspect, but as a movie itself, it's just like, alright, well, now I just want to rewatch the first one again instead. But tune in next time to the Blockbuster Show, where we're going to be seeing another comedy reunion of sorts. We're going to be seeing Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson get back together, but unfortunately it's not for Wedding Crashers, which is a great comedy. No, it's for them trying to get a job at Google. Yeah, next time we're looking at the internship. But until then, I'm Adam Sykes of the Blockbuster Show, and we will see you guys in the next video.
I'm the Mama Pajamba. I'm the Mama Pajamba.